There is a man sitting alone in a hotel room in Boca Raton, Florida. He has not spoken to his family in over 2 years. His beard has grown so long, so wild, he barely looks human anymore. On the table in front of him, a stack of burner phones, a pile of fake IDs, and tens of thousands of dollars in cash. Outside, U.S. Marshals are closing in. Billboards of his face are plastered across Ohio. And the crazy part? This man is not a cartel boss. He is not a mob enforcer. He is not a hitman. He is a marine engineer from Columbus, Ohio. And just a few years before all of this, the entire country was calling him a hero. Because this man did something that nobody in history had ever done before. He found a ship full of gold, $150 million worth of gold, sitting at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, and then he threw it all away. His name is Tommy Thompson, and this is his story. To understand just how insane this whole thing is, you have to go way back to 1857, September 12th, to be exact. A steamship called the SS Central America is making its way through the Atlantic Ocean, somewhere between the coasts of South Carolina and the Bahamas. On board, hundreds of passengers, a crew of sailors, and a cargo hold packed with gold. Not a little gold, a lot of gold. Gold bars, gold coins, gold nuggets, all of it freshly mined from the California gold rush and being shipped back to the banks on the East Coast. We are talking about what would today be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, all in one ship. Then the storm hits, a Category 2 hurricane, the kind that doesn't ask permission, winds ripping, waves crashing over the deck, the ship starts taking on water, pumps fail, the engine fails, and on September 12, 1857, the SS Central America goes under. She sinks about 160 miles off the coast of South Carolina, dragging all that gold and 425 lives straight to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. And there she sits, for 128 years. The insurance companies who had covered that gold paid out the claims and wrote the whole thing off as a loss. The ship became a footnote in history. Nobody went looking. Nobody even knew exactly where she sank, until Tommy Thompson, Columbus, Ohio, 1985. Tommy Thompson is 32 years old. He is a marine engineer, wicked smart, a little obsessive, the kind of guy who gets fixated on a problem and just cannot let it go. And the problem he cannot let go of is this ship. While most people looked at that wreck as ancient history, Tommy looked at it the same way a startup founder looks at a gap in the market, as an opportunity. A massive untapped opportunity sitting at the bottom of the ocean, just waiting for the right person to come claim it. But Tommy was not about to just hop on a boat and start guessing. He started building a mathematical probability framework, essentially a statistical model that took into account historical records, logbooks, weather patterns, ocean currents, human error in navigation, and converted all of that messy, century-old data into a precise probability map. In other words, he basically did the math to figure out exactly where the ship might have sunk. And when the math was done, he was looking at a very specific patch of ocean, about 8,000 feet deep. But knowing where it might be was only half the battle. Getting out there to find it would cost a fortune. So Tommy Thompson did something brilliant. He did not pitch this as a treasure hunt. He did not walk into boardrooms talking about pirates and sunken gold, like some kind of adventure movie. That would have gotten him laughed out of every office in Ohio. Instead, he pitched it as a tech startup. The gold was great, sure, but the real value, Tommy told investors, was the advanced robotics technology they would develop during the expedition. Deep-sea robotics patents that would be worth millions long after the mission was over. The gold was just the bonus. 161 investors bought in. Total raised $12.7 million. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now, because this story is only getting started, and you do not want to miss where this goes. With $12.7 million in the bank, Tommy Thompson got to work. He assembled what could only be described as a dream team. Deep-sea divers, oceanographers, marine scientists, and robotics engineers from some of the best institutions in the country. These were not amateurs. These were the kind of people who had spent their careers figuring out how to do things that had never been done before. Their first job was to map the ocean floor in the target area. Not easy, not cheap, but they did it. Their second job was to build the technology that would actually retrieve gold from 8,000 feet below the surface. Because here's the thing about 8,000 feet of ocean. No human diver can get down there. Not even close. You need something else. So they built Nemo. Nemo was a remotely operated underwater vehicle, basically a submersible robot equipped with cameras, lights, and a giant mechanical claw capable of gripping, lifting, and carefully recovering objects from the ocean floor. It took years to design and build. It was cutting-edge technology for 1988. Nothing like it had ever been used for a mission like this. By the summer of 1988, everything was ready. Tommy Thompson, his crew, and Nemo boarded a massive research vessel and headed out into the Atlantic, off the coast of South Carolina, to the coordinates Tommy's mathematical model had pinpointed 3 years earlier. The entire expedition came down to this moment. Was the math right? Was the ship really down there? They sent Nemo down, 8,000 feet, nearly a mile and a half beneath the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. No light, no warmth, just pitch black water and crushing pressure. And then the cameras picked something up. A shape, then another shape, then a structure. The SS Central America, right where Tommy Thompson said she would be. Sitting on the ocean floor, after 128 years, still holding her cargo, thousands upon thousands of gold coins, gold bars, and gold nuggets. An estimated $150 million worth of treasure, just sitting there. In 1988, that is an almost incomprehensible amount of money. The crew lost it, completely lost it. Tommy Thompson stood on the deck of that research vessel and watched the camera feed from 8,000 feet below. And what he saw confirmed everything. Every calculation, every investor pitch, every sleepless night, every moment when the whole thing seemed crazy. It was not crazy. He was right. They had Nemo bring up a small portion, just enough to prove to investors that this was real. Gold bars, and one single gold coin that became something of a symbol of the whole mission. When Tommy Thompson returned to Columbus, Ohio, he was treated like an astronaut coming home. A full-on American hero. The kind of story you see on the front page of every paper in the country. Over the following months, Nemo made trip after trip to the ocean floor, pulling up the treasure piece by piece. Thousands of gold coins, gold nuggets, gold bars. It was real. It was happening. And it was spectacular. Hey, drop a comment right now. Where are you watching from? City and state. Let's see how far the Daily Crime Case family reaches across the country. And then the lawyers showed up. 39 of them. Well, 39 lawsuits, representing insurance companies from all over the country. Here is why. Back in 1857, when the SS Central America sank, those insurance companies had covered the gold on that ship. When it went to the bottom of the ocean, those companies had to pay out massive financial claims to cover the losses. That gold was, legally speaking, their loss. Their property. And even though over 100 years had passed, insurance law does not really care about the passage of time. So 39 insurance companies sued Tommy Thompson and his company, all claiming ownership, or at least partial ownership, of the gold that had just been pulled up from the deep. The effect was immediate and devastating. The entire operation froze. The gold's ownership was now legally in limbo, tied up in court. Tommy could not sell it, could not distribute it, could not do much of anything with it while the lawsuits were working their way through the federal court system. Meanwhile, the bills kept coming. Legal fees, operating costs, crew salaries, the debt piled up fast. Tommy Thompson, the man who had just found $150 million in gold, was broke. About 13 tons of gold were still sitting at the bottom of the Atlantic, and he had to suspend operations because he simply could not afford to keep going. It took 8 long years, but in 1996, a federal appeals court finally ruled. The insurance companies would receive 8% of the recovered treasure. Tommy Thompson and his company kept the other 92%. That is still an enormous amount of money, enough to make everyone involved very, very rich. Or so it seemed. If this story is getting under your skin, tap that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it tells YouTube to push this video out to more people. Help us get this story out there. Here's where the story takes a turn. Not the kind of turn where something bad happens to Tommy Thompson, the kind of turn where Tommy Thompson does something bad. By the year 2000, Tommy had quietly arranged a deal, selling a significant portion of the recovered gold to a private marketing firm for approximately $50 million. $50 million. The number alone should make your eyes go wide. But here is what makes it criminal. Tommy Thompson did not tell the investors. Remember those 161 people who handed over $12.7 million back in 1988? The people who believed in his pitch, trusted his vision, and funded the entire expedition? The people who had been patiently waiting for years through the lawsuits, through the frozen operations, through all of it, waiting for the day they would get their return on investment. Tommy Thompson sold $50 million worth of their gold and did not tell a single one of them, did not send a letter, did not make a phone call, did not cut a single check. He just kept the money. For 5 years, nothing happened. The investors did not know, or at least they did not know until they started paying closer attention. By 2005, several of the investors had started asking questions, digging around, and what they found made their blood run cold. Tommy had sold the gold, he had pocketed the money, and he had deliberately hidden it from the people who made the whole expedition possible. They filed fraud accusations. Then came the lawsuit. In 2012, a federal judge ordered Tommy Thompson to appear in court and answer for what he had done. Tommy Thompson did not show up. By 2012, Tommy Thompson has shut down his cell phones. He has cut off contact with his family, his kids, his siblings, everyone. He has withdrawn every relationship he had built over the course of his life and gone completely dark. He and his longtime girlfriend have quietly left Columbus, Ohio, and driven south, all the way to Vero Beach, Florida. There, they rent a mansion, a full mansion, and they pay for it and everything else entirely in cash. No cards, no paper trail, no digital footprint. They change their names. They introduce themselves to neighbors as someone else entirely. To anyone who asks, they are just a quiet, private couple enjoying their retirement in a nice house in Florida. But behind closed doors, Tommy Thompson is in full survival mode. He has gotten hold of a book about living off the grid, one of those deep-cut, paranoid prepper-type manuals, and he is studying it like it is scripture. Multiple burner phones, stacks of fake IDs, tens of thousands of dollars in cash, organized and ready to move. He is not planning to run forever. He is planning to disappear forever. Meanwhile, back in Ohio, the federal courts issue a warrant for his arrest. Tommy Thompson, former hometown hero of Columbus, is now officially a fugitive. The U.S. Marshal Service opens a case on him. And to try to generate tips from the public, they do something you don't see every day. They put up billboards, actual highway billboards with Tommy Thompson's face on them, asking Ohioans if they have seen this man. What time is it where you are right now? Drop it in the comments, because I need you wide awake for what is about to happen next. Eventually, Tommy and his girlfriend flee Vero Beach and drive another 100 miles south to Boca Raton. They check into a Hilton hotel, and they stay there for 2 years. Tommy Thompson, the man who once commanded a research vessel in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, the man who had stood on a deck and watched a robot pull gold bars up from 8,000 feet below the surface, is now living in a single hotel room, barely leaving, barely existing. His beard grows, his hair grows, he stops cutting it, he stops caring. By the time the marshals eventually catch up to him, he looks like a completely different person, disheveled, gaunt, unrecognizable from the sharp-eyed marine engineer who once charmed 161 investors out of $12 million. Nobody at the hotel knows who he is. Nobody suspects a thing. For 2 years, it looks like Tommy Thompson might actually get away with it. The U.S. Marshals could not pin Tommy down directly. He was too careful, too disciplined about staying invisible. Using financial records, digital breadcrumbs, and old-fashioned investigative legwork, the Marshals quietly identified her location. And instead of moving in immediately, they did something smarter. They watched. They followed her, quietly, from a distance, just waiting to see where she would lead them. She led them straight back to the Hilton in Boca Raton. On January 22, 2015, law enforcement moved in. Tommy Thompson, fugitive, treasure hunter, fraud suspect, and former American hero, was arrested in the lobby of a Florida hotel. His mugshot says everything. Wild hair, wild beard, the face of a man who had been hiding for 2 years and knew in that moment it was finally over. His girlfriend was arrested too. She would later cooperate with authorities. But there was one more problem. During the years of recovery operations, Tommy Thompson had quietly taken approximately 500 of the gold coins pulled up from the SS Central America, some of the most historically significant coins ever recovered, and hidden them. Somewhere. We do not know where. A storage unit maybe. A buried cache somewhere in the south. Nobody knows. These coins were valued at roughly $2.5 million. The court ordered Tommy Thompson to reveal their location so the value could be used to help repay the investors he had defrauded. Tommy Thompson sat in that courtroom and said nothing. The original sentence was 2 years. 2 years in federal prison for defrauding 161 investors out of millions of dollars, for going on the run and forcing the U.S. Marshals to spend years tracking him down. For all of it, 2 years. But Tommy Thompson refused to give up the coins. Day after day, month after month, he sat in contempt of court, choosing prison over disclosure. 2 years stretched to 5. 5 stretched to 10. Tommy Thompson spent a decade in federal prison rather than tell anyone where he hid those coins. Think about that for a second. This is a man who found $150 million at the bottom of the ocean, who raised $12 million from private investors, who built a robot, who navigated some of the most complex legal battles in treasure hunting history. And at the end of all of it, after everything, he chose a decade of his life over giving up $2.5 million in coins. As of today, the location of those 500 gold coins is still unknown. About 13 tons of gold from the SS Central America are still sitting on the ocean floor. And the question that nobody has ever been able to fully answer is this: what happened to Tommy Thompson? Not legally. We know what happened legally. But psychologically, emotionally. How does a man go from hometown hero to federal fugitive? From brilliant inventor to bitter recluse in a Florida hotel room? Was it greed, fear, some kind of slow-building paranoia that crept in after years of lawsuits and financial pressure? Maybe all three, maybe none of them. Maybe Tommy Thompson is the only one who knows, and he is not talking. So here's what I want to know from you. Do you think those 500 gold coins have already been found by someone, or are they still sitting out there, waiting? Drop your theory in the comments. And if you want more stories like this one, the next video is right there waiting for you. I'll see you in it. The SS Central America still rests at the bottom of the Atlantic. Most of her gold, 13 tons of it, still down there, still waiting. The investors never got everything they were owed. The coins were never found. And Tommy Thompson, one of the most remarkable and most reckless minds this country has ever produced, spent a decade behind bars rather than give it all up. This has been Daily Crime Case.